friends, I am OmnusI, here in my basement lair for another RPGaDay video. Today is the 26th. Oh yes. And the 26th topic is strange. Okay. Ultimately strange can be good, strange can be bad. It is as a word. Strange can mean exotic, unusual, out of the ordinary, which for some people can be good. Some people just tire of the banal and long for exotic and out of the ordinary and strange. For some people, it's a negative connotation. They don't like strange. They like the familiar. They like the safe. And oftentimes, as strange, you get that connotation that there's some elements of potential danger there too. I find it fascinating the character of Doctor Strange from Marvel Comics, the Earth Sorcerer Supreme most of the time. And as far as characterizations go, he's fascinating to me because I love wizards, number one. Got my wizard hat on. But also, the character is really, really complex, depending on the writing team behind it. Sometimes he's masterfully powerful, wielding magical spells and using daring and willpower to defeat his many, many, many enemies and those who'd like to take over the earth. Sometimes he uses just his brains. He pulls off a Mr. Fantastic solution where he researches the right spell and incantation that can win. And he's got that level of his character too. He also has this kind of detachment from things, which may make him seem somewhat unapproachable, but it also makes it believable that he could go against all of these horrors and have the incredible enormity of the weight of the world on his shoulders as he protects all of our reality, basically, but primarily Earth, from horrible things like the Dread Dormammu and invasions from, literally hell and other things like that. Always was a fascinating character for me. So, because of my interest in things like that, I of course wanted to make sure that my game was going to have a system that could handle magic no matter what kind of magic system you wanted to run. And that's also important because I have my own fictive universe, and it's based on a series of short stories called The Young Wizards. And the way that it approaches magic didn't really fit in well with any game system because there's a lot of things I wanted to kind of tie together. There were a series of traits. I suppose if I would have gone really, really generally, I could probably have done it with Fate. Because with the aspect system and everything, it could have worked. But I wanted something a little bit more specific than that. So my game is going to work better for that, I think. But the general idea behind Doctor Strange in comics is that depending on who's doing the writing, he could be really hammy. He could be chanting all those ridiculous rhyming couplet spells of his. And throwing out his choice catchphrases like by the fiery winds of Watum, or by the crimson bands of Sitarak, and all those fun, alliterative expressions that he's got attached to all of these spells. If you're going to do Doctor Strange, you kind of got to know some of that stuff. That's hard-boiled into his character. But at the same time, some people focus on the action, don't worry about that as much. They just see him, do his hand thing, and all of a sudden blasts come flying out to hit opponents. He doesn't always have to get as theatrical. And the variety of the different effects that he can pull off using his magic, from going astral and traveling about as a spirit, to binding creatures and both the physical and the spiritual. And so many different things. Flight, although some of that is from his magical gadgets, sure, but there's a lot that goes on through the comics with Doctor Strange, certainly. Some of them are like magical versions of mesmerism and hypnotism and mind alterations, because those are all tools that he needs to do his job. But at the same time, if a different writer is doing it, and Doctor Strange is just in there for a free-for-all mystical slugging match, say he's teaming with Ghost Rider and they're hunting down demons that are threatening innocence, something Doctor Strange would and has done. You don't need to focus on those elements if he's not using them. If he's just interested in raw damage and banishing demons and, you know, intelligently fighting alongside of Ghost Rider, but at the same time understanding the situation sometimes calls for direct action and doing that. Perfectly valid interpretation of his character, and he kind of comes off a little bit differently from those different writers. And most heroes do the same. Heroes can be all up and down. I've seen things where the Hulk has been shot with a tank shell and it just kind of bounces off and leaves him stunned, and another one where he gets shot and it leaves actual bullet holes and the Hulk has to patch up as he's healing incredibly quickly, but it's still hurting him and it's still drawing blood. So different writers and different interpretations of all of that really come to the fore in comics. Now, gaming can be a lot like that too, which is why I have the idea of lenses and filters. The idea that depending on what you want in a game, you can pan out with a broad lens. If you don't want a lot of detail, you just want to be able to build a character really quickly and throw some challenges at them. And if you want a long-running campaign and it's more important to you to know individually all the different things your character can do, you can go with a very fine lens where you can get skills down to, you know, trivial hobby-level skills and, you know, literally have dozens of different things that your character is capable of doing. And it works. It generally works because the core principle doesn't really change. It's just, you know, the amount of detail and the amount of work that you have to make to manage the character and everything. So the thing with the magic system, why I really kind of wanted a magic system that lived and breathed on its own, was because magic is different for lots of different worlds and lots of different universes. For instance, Middle-earth. There are great wonders of magic, but most of them aren't all that flashy. For instance, the Sword of the King. Isildur's sword that eventually becomes Anduril? Well, Aragorn's sword. It's magical. It's incredibly finely crafted, and it has an enchantment to it that allowed it to injure Sauron, and later on is the perfect weapon in the hand of the king when it's reforged. And is it on fire? Does it glow? No. We do see glowy swords, though. We know that the swords of Gandalf, Thorin, and Sting from Bilbo / Frodo, they are also magical. They glow in the presence of orcs, and they're pretty darn good against them. Very good. So it's understated magic, but magic nonetheless. Gandalf himself doesn't throw fireballs. He doesn't fly over the battlefield. His magic is understated. Powerful in its own way, because, let's face it, outside of magic, how would you ever beat the Balrog? But Gandalf has ways. But using all of this, it's understated. You don't need a grand amount of detail in every spell Gandalf knows and demonstrates. It's not needed at all. You can go with a very, very rough filter and still be able to have all of the effects. It just requires a little bit more interpretation by the players and the characters. For instance, well, again, in my world of young wizards, most of the primary characters are wizards. Magic is a birthright; it's in your blood, and generally gets handed down along house lines. And each house is generally specialized in a type of magic, which means that there's these young wizards who are popping up that sometimes demonstrate who their ancestors might be by the different kinds of magics that they can show off. And the thing is, the different magic, all wizards don't have magic in the same way. There are 4 major expressions to magic in my world. There's the path, which is what type of magic you do. Are you a necromancer? Are you a mage of life? Are you a warcaster? Are you a warder? Are you an elementalist? Are you a, there's all these different ones. And some of them are extraordinarily rare, almost to the point where people believe they're extinct, like chronomancers. Then, after you have your path, you have your way. It's the way that magic is expressed. For the vast majority of wizards, they are trained that their way is spellcasting. They go to school. They learn rigid methods of directing their magic by using spells, to the point that when they use magic, they have to use the spell to do it. And this makes their magic safe. They no longer have random expressions of magic that can just cause things to go haywire. They generally gain a measure of control and power that without that they wouldn't have. But some of them also express magic in other ways too, especially the ones that don't learn the spells right away as they're finding out that they have magic. And that is the case with the first character in the story, Necromancer's Dirge. His name is Sigmund, and he is a necromancer, but he was not recognized as a necromancer. And his power, his way of his magic, is his voice. He talks. He can see spirits and ghosts, and he can talk to them. He can also use his magic on things through his voice. For instance, at one point he panics when he is about to be captured, and he sees the death force in the guard who is attempting to capture him, and he begs it for help, and it just goes, okay, and it subsumes the guy, and he dies of a heart attack. Wasn't Sigmund's intent, but he was desperate, and his magic instinctively reached out and snuffed the guy's life out. So, and there are other ways as well. So that's just one. But spellcasting is by far the most common in the world, and many people, it's to the point where they believe that is the only way. Then every wizard has a demon. And a demon is a somewhat intelligent force patterned after the personality of the caster, who keeps trying to draw the wizard to go deeper into their magics. That's what they care about. They don't want you to stand pat and lazy. They want to continue to draw you into using your magic more and more recklessly, and hoping to push you towards your final trait of being a wizard, your doom. In my world, all the monsters in the world are wizards who go too far. Depending on how powerful the wizard was and what kind of path they followed determines the kind of monster they turn into. So if you are for instance, the worst case scenario, if you are an extremely powerful war mage, you could turn into a dragon. Not the intelligent D&D type dragon. We're talking a raving engine of destruction, legendary dragon. And the more powerful, the bigger and more powerful you are. For example, if Sigmund ever followed his demon to his doom, he would turn to some undead creature. And you become, again, a shadow of the personality you were in life. And since a lot of times their formative years are kind of patterned along the way, for instance, war mages are generally fairly aggressive and proud individuals because they're treated as the nobles. Their powers aren't good for much else but destroying, but they're really good at it. So as a result, they're treated as dangerous and powerful, as they are. So when they go too far and they follow their doom, the dragons are haughty and powerful and destructive, just like they were in life. Even the kindest and most gentle life mage, for instance, can follow their doom. They may become something beautiful, like a unicorn, but it'll be alien to the mindset. It will not be something that is, I'm still going to go out and heal people. That's not how it works. You are a monster, and would not recognize your old self that way. So that is, well, spoilers for my stories, if I ever get the courage to put them out. But I had a really hard time coming up with a system before I came up with Dice File that really expressed all of those elements. It just didn't seem to work. But my Dice File can take all of those steps as different traits. And in addition to that, it eventually in the story becomes clear that there are some wizards who can learn more than one path, which gives them a huge advantage. And almost everybody can master some very rudimentary things from different paths. For example, there's a common shielding charm that almost everybody learns in case there's a fight and they need to protect themselves. But any war master worth his salt can just snuff out a shield charm like that. Powerful elementalists can just crush them. You know, it's not really something more useful than accidental injury from dueling, but still, they can learn it. But you would be able to assign dice values to all of that in my system. Now, another thing, too, that my system works well with was I wanted the idea that Magic was constantly attempting you to push yourself, to exhaust yourself in the pursuit of bigger and more, well, elaborate or powerful effects. Well, I have a pushing mechanism. I mean, it doesn't get any more simple than that. You can literally exhaust yourself, and if you exhaust yourself to death, then your doom comes up. There's a mechanic for seeing how close your doom is, and as certain powers go up, your doom will automatically go up as well. And also as you age, your doom goes up a bit too. Most powerful wizards barely dare to use their strongest abilities because their doom is ever creeping closer. Although their demons are going to be like, yeah, no, you could take out that whole army. You should do that. Also, the demons are individualized. So, for example, Sigmund's demon is a dead cat, a zombified cat that follows him around and critiques him and offers him advice. It is a counselor. It's not inherently evil. Again, it just wants Sigmund to be the best spellcaster he can be so that when he turns into a hideous undead creature, he'll be really powerful. So it does genuinely try to help him out. And your demon can get stronger and stronger to be able to provide more help for you. Sigmund's never gets all that powerful. It's just a cat. And a dead, decomposing one at that. But it still gives him a different perspective and sometimes offers him advice on certain things. So yeah, having those kind of systems and having an element of the strange and mechanisms for showing a multitude of different layers, I hope will make the game more attractive to a wider range of people, because you can use the same rules and change your playstyle, change the way that you're going to be affected by the mechanics to fit your particular game. So it's a little bit of you can have your cake and eat it too. At least that's what I hope people will get out of this. Ultimately, as far as being strange, sure, a lot of people are going to look at the mechanics of the game and go, I'm going to be shifting dice here and there, and that's odd. I'm not used to doing something like that. Where the dice are in their position on the table in front of me, usually something I don't have to worry about. But I think it'll be good. I really do. I have faith. And we'll see how it works out. So, but anyhow, that is my topic for today. Thank you very much for joining me. That was a little strange, but hopefully in a good way. So I am OmnusI. This has been my lair. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, farewell.